My name is Acacia Hill, and I am the owner and technical director of Brampton Hill Skating Academy. The passion for skating started at 2. I was skating in my room, living space on the floor, and my parents said that I really loved it. I think Olympics or Worlds was on TV, and I was like, I want to do that. So they took me to a local skating facility in Scarborough, and they signed me up for the recreational center program. And as soon as I took the ice, I just was flying around, and they found out later that there was a skating club within that facility, and they decided to sign me up there. And then I decided around the age of 14 that I wanted to get even more serious with my skating. And I went to a club in Richmond Hill where I competed nationally 3 times, went to Canadian championships, and then competed internationally for Canada. I have 2 favorite moments in skating. My first one would be when I was Cossack champion. I was at the age of 9. And I think that was my first time where I really was like, wow, like I did it. I'm like the champion of all of Ontario. And that's when I really knew like I could go far in this sport. And my second moment would be when I got my first international assignment. I was just like over the moon with joy. There are a lot of roadblocks in the sport. As you can tell, my skin complexion is not the norm in the sport of figure skating. So that in itself was a barrier that I knew I always had to overcome. And something in the back of my mind when I was competing is like, I always have to be 50 times better because the color of my skin. You know, one small mistake would cost me a lot, and one small mistake, you know, with like my Caucasian counterparts, they wouldn't get such penalties. So I always had to be top notch, which put a lot of stress and pressure on me. It turned into like really getting to a place where not feeling confident enough sometimes in my ability to compete at these intense levels. So it was really challenging. And then, you know, you're also being looked at from many different people who are choosing you to go to these spots, telling you you're not good enough this year to compete for us internationally for Canada. We don't like your style. You're too muscular. You're all these kinds of things. And I was always being put in a box, and I didn't find that, you know, with my other competitors. And a lot of the times didn't maybe do so well because I put extreme pressure on myself. And that was really hard because I think I could have went further. And I wasn't really getting spots to go internationally anymore. So I decided to kind of step down from competitive figure skating. Sometimes I think about what could have been. So I ended up working at like a restaurant as a bartender and a server. I worked in a garden center and as a grocery store clerk. And then I was also going to school at York University. And then I just remember one day getting a paycheck and it was like $34. And I was like, what am I doing with myself? Like I could make that in like a half an hour coaching skating and doing actually something I really love instead of just like doing the grinding that's not enjoyable. But I decided to go and do my coaching course and slowly get back into it. And I ended up getting a job at a country club. I taught mostly actually hockey in the very beginning, doing a lot of power skating. And then I had a few figure skaters that I kind of worked with. And then from there, I went to another club that was more geared towards kids who are like wanted to be competitive figure skaters. The gaps that I saw in my sport, you know, a lot of the kids who look like me, black and brown, do not have the same access, I would say, to the sport. A lot of the kids would start, you know, at a young age, and then as they started to go through the levels, it became increasingly expensive. So in creating my school, Brampton Hill Skating Academy, I really wanted to make sure those voices that weren't really heard and those kids that weren't really seen were seen in the sport, and trying to give them a way to have a longevity in the sport. Whether we help them with any like financial helps, help them to get skates, whatever we can, we're trying to make skating more affordable and more accessible for kids that look like me, for all kids, but especially kids that look like me, so that they can have that sense of hope to be in the sport. In the sport of figure skating, the power that I've learned in it is to never give up. That's been one of the biggest things. Never give up when things are thrown at you. It also teaches you the sport, time management, discipline, how to manage your life, how to actually help you outside in the real world. One piece of advice that I would tell my younger self is that it is okay to cry. It is okay to feel what you feel, but don't let anyone silence you. Don't let anyone put you in a box. Keep pushing and never give up. I've been in the sport for 30 years, and what I wish I knew as a young kid was to, just be yourself 100%. Being the only Black kid sometimes in spaces that were just surrounded by white people, you sometimes start to kind of adapt and try to fit in as best as you can, and you kind of lose your identity a little bit. My advice is to just stay true to yourself. Grit means to me, just digging in deep, working hard, hustling, not giving up. When you want to give up and those sweat and tears are, coming down, just keep pushing through it, keep fighting. That's what grit means to me. Never give up on yourself, never give up on what you're trying to accomplish. Just keep hustling, keep pushing, keep trying, keep succeeding. My favorite thing about coaching is just seeing kids fall in love with the sport the way I did. Seeing them learn new skills, getting excited about doing a new skill, especially like when a kid lands their axle for the first time. And then just seeing that expression on their face, seeing the passion, the love, the joy, that stuff really makes me extremely happy. And, when they continue that in their skating career, just continuously seeing these kids evolve, it's just such a wonderful feeling. My favorite candy is Twizzlers. My favorite hobbies are basketball and track, tennis, anything to do with sports. I'm a huge sports buff, so anything to get me active besides going into the rink, I love. My favorite genre of music, I have so many. I love reggaeton, I love Afrobeats, dancehall because I'm Jamaican background. Anything to get me moving and dancing, that's me. My favorite movie is $1 Million Baby. My favorite thing about Toronto is the food game. We have such a diverse culture of food, from Ethiopian to Japanese sushi, dim sum, Caribbean dishes. I just love the food game, and I think Toronto does it the best.